Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you all a little bit about the current state of Warlock in patch 10.2 and hopefully some changes that may be happening in 10.2.5 or, being honest, likely 11.0 in the War Within. One of the biggest questions that I'm getting a bunch on stream, and just in general that I want to address, is if Warlock is so good, meaning we're likely the best range in the raid outside of, AUG and BM, right? Why is it not being played? And why is it, I don't want to say, if it's so good, why is it so bad, in a sense? We're very good in Mythic Plus, Demonology is at least, very close to being meta, but it's not really being played a whole lot, and I think I know a good bit of reasons as to why. So today's video, we'll be talking about that. Quick plug, weak course add-ons, links down below, Twitch, Discord if you want them, all for free. And honestly, I want to get right into it because I wanted to make this video for the past few weeks. I've been at Liquid and I've been in Cali for a month, but I'm home now. I want to address some of the bigger issues with Warlock, quality life-wise, all that stuff in 10.2. Oh, and I do want to clarify really quickly as well that I do think there were a handful of good changes made to Warlock heading into patch 10.2. This is likely the best version of Malefic Rapture AF we've ever seen for Affliction. Some good demo changes, I like the Vile Fiend changes and all that, but some things were definitely a step back, and overall, just Warlock needs quality life. So I want to clarify, no bashing here, just I want to hit on the points with constructive feedback because I want this class to be fun and playable, like I used to enjoy more back in the day. All right, so now I want to clarify again, I just talked about it a minute ago, but literally, this is not a video bashing Blizzard or bashing developers in any way, shape, or form. There's ways to give good, positive, constructive feedback while being critical of certain things because you want the game, the class, whatever you're playing to be more exciting. That's what I want. I have played Warlock for too long at this point, 17 years or so. I want it to be fun. I definitely have enjoyed Warlock more in the past, but I think there are some things that can be made, changes that can be made that will make Warlock much more exciting and enjoyable come 11.0 or 10.2.5 or whenever it possibly happens, right? I want to hit on all this video, quality life stuff, general stuff, and just go from there. I've made feedback docs for Alpha, Beta, 10.0, 10.05, 10.1, 10.15, 10.2, and probably 10.2.5 over the course of the expansion. If you want to find them, you can Google them for the corresponding patch. I found that in 2 minutes. We're going to hit on some points in this video in the feedback docs, but also just like in general, right? Number one, not even on here, 6-second pet summons feel miserable. I believe this change was made in Shadowlands to Hunter and Warlock pets, respectively. I believe Hunter had it changed at the start of... sorry, not Shadowlands. I think it was BFA. Hunter had it changed, I believe, in Shadowlands. We have 6-second summons still, and it feels terrible. I know we have Fell Domination, which makes it, more convenient. Make it 2 seconds for pets. I've died in Plus, I've died in Raiding. Oh, let me get my pet out. I'm dead. Well, I gotta dodge. Move again. Volcano. Well, gotta move. It's miserable, right? I think actually it was the thing in Shadowlands. It was supposed to be like one of the thematic, returning abilities, like longer pet summons, actually. Like, jokes aside, I think that actually was the case. But please make pet summons shorter. There's no reason to be 6 seconds. It is just archaic, slow gameplay, and it feels really punishing whenever you die in Plus compared to anybody else, right? Okay, so moving on to the class trees here. I'm going to hit on every class tree, or class tree, every spec tree, and just try and get as much info in as I can. Now, I think for the most part, our class tree, like up here in this section, is fine for the most part. It's just more or less down here the issues, I think, lie. One thing I do want to hit on, Soulburn is a fine talent. I don't think it's necessarily worthy of a capstone. It could be, but looking at other classes like Rogue that has, like Death Chakram, or Hunter that has Death Chakram, or it's million DPS abilities, right? Or Rogue, or has Thistle Tea, and other classes just have like a million capstones. They're all damage-based abilities or cooldown abilities. Like I'm pulling up even right here. It just feels so much better and more exciting. And we have Soulburn, we have Inquisitor's Gaze or Summon Soulkeeper, which are not good, and we have this. We haven't played this literally in any kind of PvE setting in ages. I know you play it in PvP a little bit. You played it if you're playing ID for AF, but not only playing AF or ID in general, right? We getting back to Soulburn. I think Soulburn should have Soulburn Soulstone. If you've tried to res somebody in Plus when a tank dies or a healer dies and all hell's breaking loose, targeting them, finding them, Soulstone. Like, dude, I mean, compared to like a Rebirth or a Paladin res or whatever, it's just so slow. But having Soulburn around for that, empower your spells kind of, ability, right? Have it add Soulstone to this where it empowers your Soulstone, makes it instant cast, maybe make it last longer if you put it on somebody before they die, and gives them like 10% more health or mana. There's even a talent here before. It was Warfiend's Resolve. It's gone now. But make it instant cast where you gotta spend a shard so you lose some damage, but you can res somebody instantly. It would be so good. I've been yelled at a million times in Raid. Res the healer. Res the healer. I'm trying to cast my 10-second Soulstone. I'm trying to res somebody. The quality of life would be massive to get Soulstone or Soulburn Soulstone back, I guess, in the game in some way, shape, or form. Now, when it comes to everything else here, I mean, the clash rate, like I said, honestly, like, when it comes to capstones, we talked about it for a while. The capstones are a little lacking. I mean, Inquisitor's Gaze, you played it just for any kind of damage ability. It just does damage. You know, Soulkeeper is probably an instant cast spell, not a cast spell. When it comes to Demo or Destro or Aff, when I'm mass AoEing, I don't want to stop imploding or casting Hand and Gul'dans or Seed of Corruptions or Rain of Fires to stop and cast the Man in a Cage, summon Soulkeeper. If it was an instant cast, though, maybe off the GCD, you would actually play it in AoE, but stopping your main rotation, which does more damage, feels really bad playing Soulkeeper, right? In general, likely, I just wouldn't mind seeing this change to a different ability regardless, but, you know, when you have classes, for example, like, let me try and find like a BM Hunter here, that have these really cool talent trees. They're full of, like, you know, damage-based capstones. So you've got just, you know, like, Thistle Tea for rogues. I mean, pull up the Hunter tree here. Like, look at Hunter capstones. You've got, you know, Killer Instinct, Alpha Predator. You've got Steel Trap, Stampede, Death Chakram, Explosive Shot, Barrage, Poison Injection, Hydra's Bite. Here's Rogue as well. Rogue has Thistle Tea, iconic ability. Cold Blood, a cooldown, right? Resounding Clarity, Reverb, Deeper Stratagem, Shadow Dance, right? Like, I would love to have some kind of cooldown back, like Dark Soul, something along those lines. My cooldowns don't do anything. Tyrant is literally naked now for Demonology. Infernal's only discretion Chaos, and your Dark Lair, you don't even play your Dark Lair. You're very close to not playing your Dark Lair at all for Affliction, right? So, like, my hope is that Grand Warlock's design gets over into the Clash tree at some point in 11.0, or we just get some other capstones, you know, give us more power. But having Dark Soul Instability, Dark Soul Misery, and Dark Soul Knowledge back, Knowledge was a Legion ability for Demonology, would be great for Warlock in the Clash tree. A universal DPS cooldown would feel great to hit with your other cooldowns, don't do anything, maybe make them a little better. But it would be really, really cool to have that button where you hit it, and it does damage, because Warlock doesn't have that at all currently right now. And finally, hitting on Grim Feast. I think this is a good ability, but not in this spot. It used to be, I believe, either here or here, and it was moved to here during, I think, Alpha, when they replaced Dimensional Rift and Decimating Bolt in the capstones here, and was just left here. This is only played as Affliction if you're playing ID. We don't play AF number 1, and we don't play ID with AF number 2, so it's just not played. It is a dead capstone. And while Soulburn is cool, it should likely be up here somewhere where you have, like, you know, another capstone that's a bit more powerful here, but the utility aspect of Soulburn still in the tree somewhere up here, maybe somewhere along these lines. As far as Demonic Resilience things are concerned, I mean, they're played in niche settings. They're fine-ish. I think for the most part, the Clash tree, like, down to here is fine. It's just the capstones need serious help because they're just not fun or engaging. And looking at, like, a Rogue or even, like, a Shaman or a Hunter, it makes me cry. They look so cool with their capstones, and I have a passive eyeball, a Man in a Cage I don't play, a dead capstone the whole expansion, unfortunately, for the most part, in PvE at least, and, like, Soulburn, which is cool, but also, like, probably not worthy enough to be a capstone. So, now, moving on to Demonology. Demo received a lot of changes in patch 10.2. I think a decent bit of them are pretty good. I like Spiteful Recon. It's very cool. Single target and AoE elements together. I like the Bell Invocation, Shadow Invocation talents. I like the just general buffs to Implosion and Dogs. It's cool playing Pack the Ant Mother now, but at the same time, some changes are made that seem just pretty lackluster and honestly made the spec feel a good bit worse as a whole. And a lot of them revolve around Demonic Tyrant. The whitelisting, blacklisting of pets doesn't extend Nether Portal pets anymore, doesn't buff them for damage anymore, doesn't work with Pit Lord anymore. I don't know if it even did in the first place, it's been too long. The fact that you can only extend 10 imps max with your Tyrant, or 15 with Reign of Tyranny, hurt the power of Tyrant a lot. On top of that, in general, Reign of Tyranny has been devalued a good bit. They removed the baseline 40% damage amp to it. It used to be here in 10.1. And it's made Tyrant so unimpactful, you play a 2-minute build. You play the Naked Tyrant build, even though it's a 1.5-minute cooldown, one of your capstones. Your other cooldown, the better one, is here, in Grimoire Felguard being a 2-minute cooldown, right? So you hold your capstone cooldown for your 4th row cooldown being Grimoire. Number 1, the desync there is just so awkward, 2 minutes versus 1. Same with Vile Fiend being 45, so you've got a 45, a 2, and a 130 here. You hold this for this. You don't play Soulbound Tyrant anymore, which felt great to play, and you don't play Grand Warlocks or Reign of Tyranny anymore. Your capstone is basically dead. When it comes to the Portal row, I think this row should just go in general. There's rules like when you break the synergy between Tyrant and Portal, no extensions, no damage amps, it's just not good. Doesn't really matter what you do anymore to it. And if you keep buffing the rules in Portal to the point where it's just too good, or its best again, then you have just a really strong cooldown in general, which was frustrating to play with, even more awkward timings. The Pit Lord's cool. Thematically, it's awesome, but losing the damage amp from the old version of the Razul, giving it more power per pet summon, just makes it really awkward, and this whole row is just dead now, basically. Unfortunately, I think it's a cool row, but, you know, what can you do? I think a good change to Tyrant, I mean, like, buff the damage of Tyrant, number one. I think you can add the 40% clause back to Frame of Tyranny, you know, making it a stronger cooldown in general, adding value to this row. Number two, I think getting rid of Soulbound Tyrant and make it passive. Bake this into Tyrant, like, just passively. Like, the ability feels great to play with, but in the end, like, it's just, it feels like it should be baseline, like a lot of things in the Warlock class trees. Quality of life, make it baseline. Replace this talent with Tyrant Soul, or Supreme Commander from BFA, from Shadowlands. And whenever you summon your Tyrant, it gave you a damage amp whenever it expired. I guess it would amp your pet damage past your Tyrant expiration, giving them a longer pet amp or damage amp past Tyrant expiring. I believe it gave you a Demonic Core. Their Tyrant expired too, feeling that, you know, Demonic Core kind of profile that Demo has. And that would also add power to this row. You'd have Tyrant into Supreme or Tyrant Soul. You'd have Ram of Tyranny and Grand Warlock's Design, making this row powerful, feel good, and all of that again. When it comes to Immutable Hatred and things, I think it's fine. The change is okay. I don't mind the Demonic Core usage. I will say that when it comes to Doom and Kha'Zix, these are just, I don't know, like I mentioned Hand of Doom a bunch. It'd be great to have Doom and the Hand of Doom, like making, you know, Hand of Gul'dan apply Doom, also have it may buff the damage a bit. These two talents have been dead the whole expansion. Unfortunately, it's not very good at all. Maybe they can be changed in some form. I don't know. That feedback's been out there for a long time, but we will we'll see what happens there. Other thing I want to hit on here, this talent right here, Shadow Invocation. So while Bilesword Bombers has been buffed and is better than Demonic Strength, and not better, it's close to Demonic Strength, right? Half-minute cooldown, no shard cost versus a minute cooldown, all that. The talent below it only buffs Bombers. And while it does give you like a baseline Bomber proc at times, even if you're just playing Demonic Strength, it will proc Bombers while playing Strength. I feel like this node should buff Demonic Strength in some way, shape, or form. It just feels odd having a node that leads out of Strength or Bombers, only buffing Bombers, even with that chance to proc a Bomber in general. It's not really played very much, even in AoE. It's played like in mass AoE, like on Tindral, but for the most part, doesn't really see a whole lot of play. It feels like it's a cool talent, but in the end, it feels like it's a little lackluster. But yeah, I mean, that's most of Demonology stuff. My biggest gripe is just the Tyrant nerfs, like the naked Tyrant build to Seeing play, which is just, I don't think, very fun to play. I love Minute Tyrant, love Ram of Tyranny. But in the end, this build's better. This cooldown is stronger than this cooldown. And this doesn't need a nerf, this needs a buff, right? You also have the issue of 2-minute cooldown, minute and a half cooldown, 45 cooldown, dogs are 20 seconds, right? And you're in this world of like juggling 5 different cooldowns, trying to line them all up. And if you factor in Portal, maybe being a thing later on, it's also a 3-minute cooldown, right? So there's a shell of Demonology here that could be really exciting and strong and all that, but there's a lot of clunkiness and awkwardness. When you start whitelisting and blacklisting pets, only 10 imps with Tyrant without Reign of Tyranny, but 15 with Reign of Tyranny and all that, it's awkward. I would also love getting Grand Warlock's Design in the class tree. Like, it needs to be here. Replace this, put Grand Warlocks over here in 11.0 or 10.2.5 at this point. So you'd have the option of having, Tyrant with Reign of Tyranny, and then also playing Grand Warlocks over here, giving you that Reign of Tyranny 1-minute profile. Be great. Even just in general, having this in the class tree, it works for every spec. Tyrant, Infernal, Dark Lair. Abilities like this should, I think, be in the class tree, but the problem at hand is also that you have Tyrant, Infernal, and Dark Lair in your spec trees as a cooldown. So if a new player picks up the spec and they can't see, they don't notice that, hey, you have to play, if you're playing Grand Warlocks over here, you have to play your Tyrant or your Infernal or your Dark Lair to basically, enable this ability. That could be an issue. But at the same time, other classes have that as well. It works out fine. If a new player is picking up the class, probably copying a guide somewhere, and I think it's just fine. It'd be much better for the spec. You can even just put it over in the class tree, have it, whenever you hover over it or take it, the other cooldown glows over here, saying, hey, take this ability with this, right? There's ways to make it work. And having Grand Warlocks in the class tree, I think, solves a lot of issues. Like Grimoire Sync, the Vile Fiend Sync, in a sense, right? It helps at least alleviate some of the issues, quality of life-wise. But, yeah, that's what I got for Demonology. Let's get into another spec. So when it comes to Affliction, I will say that I think this is one of the better versions of Affliction we've seen, like over the history of, or the course of Malefic Rapture being your Spender's Affliction. Off the bat, I want to have this ability right here for Affliction in 11.0. I want UA to be our spender again. Rapture's fine, but it also brings a lot of problems with it. We'll talk about in a minute here, right? I want UA dot-based AF to come back. Rapture's okay. It's better in certain spots if you want a more burst damage profile on certain ads to spawn maybe, but at the same time, AF is dot-based, and while it does do dot damage, UA is like, having that is what AF was in the day, and I think it needs to go back to that, right? Regardless, hitting on the nodes here, getting that out of the way, go back to UAF, please, being your spender. A handful of nodes is quality life stuff I want to hit on here, which I think would be a huge plus for AF. Number one is going to be Siphon Life versus Absolute Corruption. This has been a hot topic for all the expansion. I will say that I'm a bigger fan of Siphon Life than most everybody else. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't hate it as much as everybody else, right? It poses a lot of problems, though, when it comes to Rapture being your spender, right? In these 2-target and 3-target fights and scenarios, even in M+, like having Siphon Life as that third dot, maintaining it on 3 targets, with Rapture doing more damage based on the number of dots you have on these targets, does indeed mean that it's better than Absolute Corruption, which is where AC was typically played in the past. It was played in Mythic Plus, it was played in these council fights, it was played in these, 3-target scenarios. Now you're playing Siphon Life, right? You're playing it in plus for that single target damage, but also you can juggle it on 2 mobs or 3 mobs and get more value out of Rapture. Number 2 with Rapture being an issue, at that 2 and 3 target scenario, right? It's like, well, do I Rapture in 3 targets, or to a newer player, do I Rapture or do I Seed? Because they both consume shards, they both damage AoE. What's better? Where's the threshold, right? Not really an issue with Demo or Destra, but AF is confusing when it comes to that, right? A change I proposed for a long time is taking Siphon Life back to the way it used to be in Wrath, I believe, TBC, where it increased the damage of your dots and maybe healed you for a little bit. I think it'd be fine. So you wouldn't have the actual Siphon Life dot, but it would, empower Agony. It would empower Corruption or Agony and UA. Maybe make Corruption, AC based only, but it would have them do like 10% more damage, 20%, whatever, and heal you a little bit whenever they do damage, right? I think that'd be fine. It would get rid of the Siphon Life juggling. It would make AC better in his council-based fights, or fights where you want that permanent corruption effect. And it would be a huge plus to quality life for AF, because if you played AF in these council-based settings, juggling Siphon Life, you have like no free GCDs for basically the entire expansion. And it feels sort of awkward, right? Like I said, also just the awkward interaction with Rapture versus Siphon Life, versus Siphon Life and AC in these council fights, like, hey, it gives more damage to Rapture. So if you can maintain Siphon in these 2-3 target settings, you're going to do more damage with the Raptures, even though AC should be played in those settings, right? So, number 2 is Vile Taint and Singularity, or number 3, whatever we're on here. Singularity feels like it should be better in single target. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they want Vile Taint to be better, and it is better this tier, just in general damage-wise, but also because of the fact that you're playing Soul Rot with Gluttony for a faster tier bonus. It syncs Soul Rot with Gluttony to your Vile Taint every half minute. That's a tier bonus thing. It changes from tier to tier. It's fine. But looking at 10.1, Vile Taint was better. Looking at 10.0, I think it was pretty close, if not Vile Taint being a little better, right? That 45-second cooldown on Singularity versus 30, not a huge deal when it comes to popping your Dark Lair being a 2-minute cooldown. It's like 2 versus 2:15. But Vile Taint pound for pound is better. I think PS needs a buff. It feels like PS should be your single target spender, being no shard cost. There's no weird AoE application of Agony here. Just, hey, hit this in single target. Maintain Agony just like by hitting Agony, right? And Vile Taint can be used in Mythic Plus or AoE, where you want to have, multiple iterations of the dot out, but also apply Agony to multiple mobs, which is, probably where it needs to be, right? On the same topic of Vile Taint, we've hit it on it a bunch, but one of the bigger issues with Vile Taint currently, and honestly the whole expansion, it was changed in beta. Vile Taint used to be a 20-second cooldown, which allows you to basically maintain your Agonies and AoE permanently. Now, the problem with Vile Taint right now is that in Mythic Plus, put out your Vile Taint, you're doing whatever, hitting mobs. I'll even Soul Rot and Rapture a little bit if I have shards here. Extend a little bit, right? There's that. Got a little bit of extension on my Agonies and stuff, right? Vile Taints. But the problem is, like, look at my Agony duration and look at my Vile Taint, right? So start refreshing. Got to refresh all 5 manually. Very exciting, fun gameplay. And then look, I have Vile Taint up again in 7 seconds. So there's that weird, refresh window in between Vile Taint. Now they're all refreshed. Well, guess what? I can Vile Taint again and mass refresh. That is a tremendous quality life issue with Affliction currently, and I think it needs to be looked at because it's not too powerful. The interaction is not too strong. And at the same time, and Shadow Priest has, I think, Shadow Crash, which applies dots to everything. Every Shadow Crash things that you can maintain permanently, I'm pretty sure, in AoE. That is the biggest quality life issue with AF, Mythic Plus, is that weird Agony just window where you have to manually refresh 3, 4, 5, 8 of them. And then, 7 seconds later, I can Vile Taint again. I don't know why it was changed. I'm I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but at the same time, quality life wise, it needs to change back. It just feels miserable playing AF in a setting when you know you're like a few seconds off your Vial Taint, but just not close enough to having it to refresh an AoE, right? Besides that, I mean, there's some minor things. ID needs a buff, obviously. It's not played, even though it probably should be. You're going through Soul Swap and single target just to get Withering Bolt, save a talent point. You go into PI and Soul Swap over ID, where you should probably be playing ID. I think there's still an issue with like Dread Touch versus Doom Blossom. I mean, they're both good abilities, very good in AoE, very good in single target. But the problem is if you're playing Doom Blossom and Mythic Plus, like this, for example, you don't have that single target element. Demo's better single target. Destro's better single target. You shouldn't be great at both, but it feels like you're sort of forced into taking one or the other. You want to do good single target, take Dread Touch. You want to do massive AoE, take Doom Blossom. And I mean, typically always take Doom Blossom, right? It's very good in AoE. Mass Burst, very, very strong. But at the same time, when it comes to bosses, even playing Siphon Life, I mean, Demo or Destro will beat it in single target, which is, you know, sort of awkward. When it comes to your main cooldown being Dark Lair, it does irrelevant damage. It's like 3 to 4%, I believe, of your overall damage in single target. It might even be less. And unfortunately, now we're not playing Grim Reach anymore, which makes things, you know, even more awkward. When it I guess in Plus at least, right? Now, when it comes to Grand Warlock's design, this has basically been bad for Dark Lair since, you know, it was put in the tree here pretty much for the most part. It is cool making it a 1.5-minute cooldown baseline. Once again, having it in the class tree would be big for every class or every spec in general, right? But Dark Lair itself just feels lackluster. It was buffed and nerfed and buffed and nerfed, and now it's just in a weird spot where it's like, it's there mainly to extend your dots, and that's it. Back in the day, I mean, like, back in the day, when you had Deathbolt and you age your spender in single target, or in the expansion, right? The dot extension mattered from your Dark Lair, because that Deathbolt you launched would hit harder based on the remaining time of your dots, and UA would stack, so you put up 5 UAs, your Dark Lair, big dot extension, then launch a massive Deathbolt. And they had to cap Dark Lair like 4 times based on, or they had to cap Deathbolt like 4 times based on dot extension. In the end, it just went away. But it feels like Dark Lair, with its like baseline bad I-beam damage, for example, here's a rank 1 parse on Volcaros, where's I-beam? Where's Dark Lair? 2%, big cooldown. It feels like that being the case, it feels like it's sort of a relic of times past, where it was good with Deathbolt and things, but it's now mediocre and still in an awkward form, right? It could use buffs. Just in general, it feels sort of awkward to hit. Doesn't really do much damage, but I guess I mean, it sort of is what it is. Like, hopefully at some point it gets addressed. But yeah. So besides that, I mean, like, this is still a good version of AF for Malefic Rapture based AF. But in the end, I think there are some quality life changes that need to happen. You can also get rid of this or just overhaul this. You can also just make this, whenever Seed pops via So, extend the duration of agonies by like half a second and 1 second per like explosion, which would basically give you a Vial Taint permanent refresh, right? Because it would refresh agonies long enough. Make it work somehow math-wise, right? And it literally leads into Vial Taint. It's a perfect option. But in the end, this has never been played, the whole expansion. It was cool. Like in theory, very, very cool, but in the end, not very good. So I might have missed 1 or 2 things here for AF, but honestly, like, if those changes are made, I'm not a developer, obviously. I'm probably reasons why they haven't been made. But if those changes are made, I mean, AF would be a blast to play in Plus. In the end, I want UA back as my spender, as my main capstone here. Get rid of Rapture. Maybe it's the 11-0 thing, but AF is still... I enjoy playing AF when I can, but in the end, you know, Demo's better, and that's just that. Let's get into Destro. So, Destruction in 10.2 has changed, as we likely know. Madness is gone. You now just have a passive talent called Chaos Bringer that buffs Chaos Bolt, Rain of Fire, and Shadow Burn. They buff the damage of all 3 to compensate for like the loss and raw percent here from Madness. It's fine. It's basically a passive Madness ability without the cast time reduction that Madness had. I will say, I mean, Destro feels very slow without Madness casting Chaos Bolts, but in the end, I think long term, if we had the option of keeping the same duration on Madness or getting Chaos Bringer, it's likely better to have Chaos Bringer. Regardless, putting that aside, though, there are a handful of things I want to hit on for Destro here. We can start off number 1, right off the bat, Inferno and Cataclysm. Cataclysm, out of any ability for any Warlock spec, it has to be the number 1 ability that's been asked for baseline. Whether it's baseline in the spellbook without being in the class tree, or just take Inferno, put it here, get rid of this ability, it's not very good, and just put Cataclysm by itself here. Cata feels great. It is the Vial Taint of Destro, applying multiple immolates in AoE. Like, I can't tell you, when a warrior is running into a pack, you know, just slamming, spinning, a demon hunter's jumping around, a mage is doing whatever they do, they're blasting, and here I am being a Destro lock, running into a pack. Oh, they're pulling the pack, immolate. 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 Rain of Fire. It feels so clunky. Cataclysm solves all those issues, and to be fair, it's being played now in plus in certain builds due to like the Grand Warlock changes. But having Kata as a non-choice node, not having to say I'm gonna sort of like nerf my AOE in a sense with less shard gen, less Rain of Fire damage, or take Kata for quality life, it really shouldn't be an option, right? I think a great change would be keeping Rain of Fire here, put Inferno here, and put Kata here by itself, or just put Kata here, then go Rain of Fire, Inferno, right? But Pyrogenics, while it is sort of an old ability, it's like the Legion ring, it's literally irrelevant. Like I haven't heard the word Pyrogenics mentioned the whole expansion, barring me complaining about it in videos. Like, I get why it's there, sort of bridges the gap, but in the end, it's huge quality of life. Kata being baseline to be massive, or by itself in a talent node, it just, I think, really needs to happen for Destro quality life-wise in AoE, and honestly, even when it comes to single target. Moving on a bit here, I mean, like, I can just sort of jump down here. Honestly, Soulfire, whether you're a fan of Soulfire or not, or Conflagration or CDF, they all have their own places. Whatever's just best, you play it. It sort of is what it is. They've been around for a long time. Sort of that. Fire and Brimstone, I would love the toggleable version back from WoD, where you just have, the ability to launch like a Chaos Bolts through it or whatever. Probably won't happen, but in the end, it hasn't been played for a very long time. The damage, like, nerf on it, Incinerate deals 13% damage. Or 25 at rank 2 out of 2. It's way too much. It's been nerfed numerically over and over and over and over and over every patch since, like, I don't know, late mid BFA. Just irrelevant now. It would be awesome to have it back in a toggleable form, or as a form in general. You can even leave it passive, where it just does more damage. It'd be great to play in AoE. It feels awesome to play with, but in the end, you just never play it because it's not good. It needs tuning probably a little bit, right? Besides that, once again, means they're fine. It sort of is what it is. I think the other issue is just sort of lie down here. Now, this tier, obviously, Dimensional Rift is your tier bonus. It sort of is what it is. Like, I think they probably should have... I hit on it too late. I think Embers could go down here, replace Dimensional Rift, and just put Rift here, where you have, like, Rift being a higher node in the tree, not as hard to reach, not sacking other capstones you want here more for your tier bonus, which is required. It will give you the option of having, like, Chaos Incarnate, which is, good in AoE, also good in single target, or putting Embers here, Incarnate or Embers down here, where Embers is a little more single target based, right? Currently, I'm okay with tier sets being based around talents within reason, but think back to Aberrus, right? It was based around, I think, PS and Vile Taint, right? Yeah, PS and Vile Taint, and Grimoire Felguard, which are both roughly in here for AF and Demo, right? This tier, Mirror you have Soul Rot, which is a capstone-esque for AF, but you're already playing it. It's not a full capstone. And then you have Destro being a full capstone at the bottom of your tree, Rift, where in the end, you'd rather play Grand Warlocks and Avatar, but you have to take this because your tier bonus works around it, So likely putting this here would be better, but in the end, I mean, it is what it is. Tier's already out, but in general, if I didn't hit on that, somebody would complain about it, so there's that. Now, the other issue, obviously, Destro feels very not immobile, I guess, right? I mentioned bringing back, like, making Searing Pain, I think, again, making castable on the move. It was called like not Flame Rift, Fell Flame. Some ability you had back in the day you can cast in the move. I forgot what it's called. I know it. I just forgot. Some kind of movement. I mean, I've talked about Kill Jaden's Cunning, obviously a little too strong. Spirit Walker's Grace is the thing for Shaman. Evokers have literal, basically busted Kill Jaden's Cunning and Hover. Icy Flows for Mage. Destro needs something. It is very, very clunky on the move. Can't really cast anything. And with Madness being gone, your bolts are also very long now, which makes things a little even more awkward, right? Other thing here I want to hit on when it comes to Destro, honestly, is like this section of the tree in general here just feels really weak, right? Your Inferno by itself doesn't do damage. Without Crushing Chaos being buffed and overhauled, good change, I like it. It's like Grimoire Supremacy, whatever back in the day. I think it's cool. Without Crushing Chaos being the way that it is, though, your Infernal is like Dark Glare. It's like Tyrant. And raw power-wise, just what the spell on its own does, it's literally a very, very flat button to hit, right? Crushing Chaos, empowering your Chaos Bolts makes it feel better, which builds upon Grand Warlock's design, which is cool to see. But pound for pound, your Infernal just is not good. If these weren't here, if this wasn't here, you wouldn't even play this talent. You wouldn't play this either, right? Pound for pound, without buffs to them, without Grim Reach, for AF, with Malevolent Visionary, without, Ray of Tyranny being good for Demo, and without Crushing Chaos, your cooldowns just all feel bad. They're all just, unfortunately, a little undertuned, and I feel like just need help in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how to do it, but I mean, just somehow, right? Maybe bake this into Infernal. Not really sure. Infernal Brand, unfortunately, has just been nerfed a crazy amount percent-wise, to where it's not really good anymore. And without having, like, Ram Warlocks in the class tree here to make, like, you know, Infernal with Reign of Chaos, with Crashing Chaos every 2 minutes versus 3, Reign of Chaos is just not very good anymore, unfortunately. Infernal Brand builds upon Reign of Chaos. When this is not good, and vice versa. Power Overwhelming's, I guess, okay-ish. Seems a little underwhelming, but in the end, Sim's all right. But I feel like a lot of the problems with Warlock, quality life-wise, Kata stuff, you know, Vile Taint stuff, Tyrant, Whitelist, Blacklist things, right, and other demo issues with timings, like Vile Fiending, Grimoire, and your Tyrant. But I think a lot of the issues with Warlock really just are at least semi-addressed, like the bigger ones, or sort of resolved by having Grand Warlocks in the class tree, is looking at a way to empower our cooldowns, which, honestly, putting Grand Warlocks in the class tree and making another node here below Tyrant, below Infernal, below Dark Lair, maybe tweaking them a little bit, sort of does, because you have that CDR on every cooldown with being in the class tree, right? Grand Warlocks reduces Infernal, reduces Tyrant, reduces Dark Lair, sort of making them a little better in a sense. They need help regardless as well. It's a step in the right direction, though. And I feel like there are other ways to do it as well, I'm sure, if I just can't fit this in the class tree. But I feel like the larger issues with Warlock sort of just revolve around, outside of like quality life stuff and movement and all that like we talked about, your CDs just not being very impactful. They just aren't. And when you hit your big button, Infernal, Dark Lair, Tyrant, and they don't do anything, it feels pretty bad. When you look at a rogue class tree with Thistle Tea, or Hunter with Death Chakram and Stampede, all this crazy stuff, and you know that Dark Soul for Warlock would sort of help a lot of those issues, but you don't have it, it just feels so awkward. So this is my plea, this is my Hail Mary, and yeah, we'll see. So thanks for watching, guys. It wraps it up. Hopefully I hit on some of the points you guys want to talk about, or I guess also feel the same about for Demo Deshraf and the class tree. I think, honestly, Warlock is likely, I could be wrong here, but probably the #1 class up for an overhaul in 10.2.5, or likely 11.0 when all the changes hit, or when the expansion hits, right? I don't know, but in the end, there's a lot of things like quality life-wise, Affliction, Vile Taint stuff, all our capstones in the class tree, Demonology, Tyrant stuff, Destruction, the whole spec, Cataclysm stuff. In the end, all our cooldowns don't feel good to hit. They don't do anything, right? That need to be addressed, but it's likely a bigger we're going to change everything in 11.0 and hopefully get a new version of Warlock. Being honest, I've never said when someone comes in the stream, hey, I want to play a Warlock or a Mage or a Rogue or a Shaman, what would you say? I don't say Warlock. I mean, I enjoy it, and if you enjoy that kind of theme when it comes to, you know, playing classes like that, the emo, you know, caster class, whatever, sure, play a Warlock, but Mage, much more exciting to play, I think, overall. Quality life-wise, toolkit-wise, much better. Most classes in the game feel like they're a lot better, quality life-wise, enjoyment-wise, all the above. But I will say, from all the overhauls that classes have gotten, Ret Paladin, Hunter, Demon Hunter, Rogue, Mage, all that, Blizz has gotten really good, I think, personally, at overhauls to classes that have gotten them. So hopefully, if and when Warlock gets one, it'll be a good overhaul. We'll have maybe Grand Warlocks in the class tree, and we'll go from there. But yeah, so all that being said, thanks for watching, guys. Before we end, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons, like always, for all support on Patreon. Thank you a million times, guys. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting, should be a link up here as well as down below in the description. At the same time, if you want any week rewards or add-ons, also links to Twitch and Discord down below in the description. And if I missed anything you guys want to hit on, feel free to put it down below in the comment section. I might have forgotten about some things. It's been a long week. I'm not feeling the best still, but we're getting there, slowly but surely, hopefully. So all that being said, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.